Hey. I don't know what happened. So strange.
Boys and girls, your attention, please.
Welcome back inside the Park for Mayfair podcast number 932. I tried that in English if I could. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
A.K.A. Negative Camper. You know what we do on race weekends, remember?
We watch one, then we talk about it. Then we watch one, then we talk about it. Come on, Todd.
That's exactly what we do. We do it every time. And we're going to be talking about the Bahrain Grand Prix this time. But before doing that, of course, I got to go find a professional. Yep, that's right. The sporting manager of the Aston Martin Racing, Heart of Racing team here in America. You know him.
Ripped from out of the wasteland. He's bad, he's beautiful, he's crazy. It's...
Hello, everybody. This is Paul Charles, the International.
It's Paul.
Hey.
Paul, I just got to start the podcast off. I feel a little upset on your behalf on the Long Beach Grand Prix. Not how you wanted to finish it. Tough race.
No.
But if anyone's out there listening or watching on YouTube and you didn't catch Paul's videos where he took us on a track walk, go watch those because it explains exactly kind of what they experienced during the weekend, right? And and then you remember also in the discussion we had a podcast midweek last week where Paul and I talked about the lead up to the Long Beach Grand Prix. And if you haven't listened to that one, you can go back and listen to that one. You hear Paul say that I asked him 10 questions. So Paul was 10 tenths last week, not 11 tenths. He was 10 tenths. And I asked him point blank where he thought he'd make the pace in the pit or on the track. He said pit, and man, it turned out that way, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yep.
Yeah.
Sure did.
Really did. And I was trying to figure out, and you were telling me the Rexy, the Porsche, it was like, whoa, how did he do it? And it was a short fill. You clued me in on that one.
Yeah. I said the Porsche, I think I called that the Porsche was going to be strong, and the BMWs, which were very strong. They were on the front row, but they messed up as usual.
Yeah.
and didn't win the race anyway.
And it wasn't due to Kevin Magnussen, by golly.
No, it wasn't. No.
But
anyway, it wasn't great. It wasn't, we missed on the setup on the GT car for sure.
Yeah.
So we were running second for the first half of the race, but in the end,
you were, yeah.
The pit stops weren't bad. We only lost like 2 seconds over maybe the fastest stop. Yeah, so it wasn't really that out laps. It was the handling of the car. It kind of fell off near the end there. Because
Tom Gamble,
right?
When you had Tom Gamble in, he was running P2, and then you took the lead when they cycled and all that. And then when Stevenson got in, you could just see that pace drop off. But it's tough.
So and it happens. Track wrappers up, things change during the race, and we just didn't go the right direction.
Yeah.
The hypercar was good actually. We beat both Acuras on pace. So that's the first time we've been really able to fight with these people, and we beat them on merit. So a team not lost, as Grace likes to call it.
What did you P8,
and,
right?
P8.
Yep.
So we're actually happy with that. We've still got a ways to go, but yeah.
Well, then Gray Newell, you had a podium with the SRO.
Yep. Yeah, Gray got a pole and a podium.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in the second race, he ended up exactly where I said you don't want to be, in the fountain area, which is on top of the flowers. So I hope he got that bit wrong at the start, and hopefully we don't get a bill for some chrysanthemums or whatever it was.
That's what you and your business, Paul, call a coaching moment.
Yes.
Right. So that was a good
he had unfortunate for him because he had a really solid, good weekend. And unfortunate for him there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a good race. But all right, let's talk about another race. We got the Bahrain Grand Prix. Let's do a little formation lap, a little table setting. Warmer temps than there were in testing, right? During and it really did bring to the forefront some very interesting tire strategies throughout. And if I'm honest, I was sitting there, watching, and I was trying to figure out, okay, who is going to be on the right tire and win, right? But the safety car did throw a real spanner in the works there, made it a lot more difficult for me to try to guess, as it did for teams. There was, the safety car, some people benefit, other people don't. And that was kind of the case here a little bit too.
Yep.
Interesting, Paul, that the FIA reduced tire pressures prior to the race down to 23 PSI on the fronts, 21 PSI on the rears, which would suggest to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that the track is a little lighter on the rears than it is in the fronts. But it is an abrasive track, windy conditions, a little bit difficult to tell who might be strong coming out of free practice 1, 2, and 3, apart from McLaren. I think that was obvious. But wasn't quite sure how it was going to mix up with the Ferraris, Mercedes. Could Max pull it back out of the Red Bull? So I was heading into this race, thinking McLaren certainly looked to have pace in hand. Oscar's pole position looked pretty untenable, or pretty unbeatable. And I kind of reckoned that he was in for a good shot for the win, but how everybody else fell out, I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, no. And on those tire pressures, it's not necessarily that one end is less aggressive than the other. Obviously, the fronts and rears are usually different anyway, because they get different loads and things like that. So just because the rears were lower, you tend to come up higher on a track that is rear dependent. Right? You work those rears more, so you want actually to start at a lower pressure so that when everything equalizes, they'll be equal to the front. So just a little
gotcha.
bit on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Tire pressure's lower, good for rears. Wrong.
Sorry.
Point taken. No, Paul, you correct me at any moment.
Okay.
I mean, you are a sporting manager of a racing team. I'm not.
Right. Right.
And quite honestly, that's why you're here, Paul. Because what
the only reason I'm here. Certainly not for my good looks.
Oh, that's not true. It could be for your cooking and your discerning palate, Paul.
Maybe.
Yeah, it could be.
That's more likely.
Yeah. Let's talk about how the teams finished. We'll dive into a little bit of the strategy, which was really kind of fun to watch, if I'm honest. I kind of got a kick out of it. We'll start at the sharp end, certainly with McLaren. Lando Norris down in P3, Oscar Piastri in P1. Oscar had a bit of a close moment there with George at the start. Got a little close. But once he established that lead, it wasn't really threatened until the safety car. He had a good restart at the safety car. At first, I thought maybe he was going to start. He started a little early, but as it turns out, he had a good start. Held off George and the others, spread his lead out to come home in a very commanding P1. A terrific drive. And not just on Sunday. Oscar was hooked up all weekend long, Paul.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think he was comfortable. I don't think he was worried at the restarts at all.
Yeah.
I mean, him and that car were working fantastically through the whole weekend, as you say. And, when you have the car, you can relax in moments when everyone catches back up again, because you can just do it all over again and stay within the margin. That's exactly what Oscar did. Lando was a different matter.
Yeah, Oscar said that the car was, terrific, super fast. He goes, it occasionally still bites you, but overall it's really good. And it looked good. And, as we were talking before we started recording, this is going to make life even more difficult at McLaren. And as I've been saying since the beginning of the season or before, Zach may have a Nico Lewis situation on his hands here. And if Oscar's mission was to knock Lando's feet off the desk at McLaren, he's doing it. And he's going to make it tough. And his manager, Mark Webber, is going to be coaching him. You have no reason to stand down for anyone. You're just a couple of points behind Lando. You've got 2 victories on the season. And Mark, who's been on the working end of team orders his career and not happy about it, he's not going to coach him to do anything different than to go out and stuff Lando, at the corner.
Yeah, no. I mean, Mark has a chip on his shoulder, and I think he wants to not live vicariously through Oscar, but teach.
He has a
Oscar
wrong
all
to
the
right.
Things he learned. Yes, he certainly does. And it's gonna get juicy. It just has to. And I mean, it would be very easy for Oscar to be compliant, and say, okay, well, can it be my turn next year? He's not there to do that.
No.
He's never been that way. I mean, he's friendly with people and whatever, but you can always tell behind Oscar's eyes is just, I want to be a champion.
Yeah.
I don't need to have Lando be my buddy.
Yeah.
You know, if he is, that's great. We get along, great, helps the team forward. But in the end, when you're a driver and you're faced with a point in your life where you've got a car that can win a championship, you don't know when that's going to come around again.
Yeah.
You know, the rules are changing next year. It could all be over this year. This is both their prime chance to win championship.
Yeah.
They're not going to say, "Oh, after you, no, after you, sir." And as mentioned last time on the podcast, the only way to do that for Piastri to kind of gain that momentum within the team is to just keep out-qualifying Lando, and that's exactly what he did. Don't give them the option of having to give up.
That's right.
And cede to Lando by being faster than him on Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all he has to do. But it is going to get juicy. You know it is.
Yeah, I know it is. Yeah, Oscar's kind of got those dead eyes. You know?
Yeah.
He doesn't have that bright, twinkle in his eye. He's there to kill.
Yeah, and we saw from this weekend the car's really good, and it's gonna the hotter conditions, the McLaren's good, so they're gonna probably be pretty dominant at this point, I think, and so Mercedes is doing a great job trying to stay with them, but so they're going to get very close to the point where the championship for the team is quite a nice margin, and that's when they can start looking internal at which driver's going to actually win the championship.
Yeah, you said that a couple of podcasts ago, or the last one or two ago. Yeah, that's what you said. That's so true. And look, he's Australian, for crying out loud.
That's right.
I mean, he's a young man that spent his entire life trying to not get killed by all the flora and fauna in Australia. I mean, even the ants down there will take you out at the knee. You know?
Oh, they will. Yeah, you get in a dark alley with some of those babies.
I know. Yeah, you got to watch it down there. Everything down there can kill you. It's crazy. Yes. So he's made of hotter stuff.
Yes.
Let's talk about Lando. Lando had a terrific start, was over this box on the grid. Not quite sure how he sort of muffed that one up, but he did. He got a 5-second penalty. But he had pace in hand, and I think Sky's commentary was absolutely right when they awarded that penalty. I think Crofty and Martin Brunner was like, he can overcome that. He can overcome it. He's got the pace, and he did, right? He came in, served that penalty at a stop. Not to worry, he had the pace, but getting around a brace of Ferraris is no easy task. But he finally made his way past that, and then set out about hunting Russell down, who was struggling with electrical grims of his own. He had one lunge at George, locked it up, didn't work, didn't get past, settled for P3. And while this is a big win for McLaren and their Bahrain investors, we're very happy on a home soil win for them. And it's the first win for McLaren at Bahrain. That's great. A lot in the media has been talking about Lando's self-deprecating comments about himself and his mental and all this stuff. And I think is that on target? All of these, navel gazing, articles about Lando beating himself up and those kind of things. Is it just Lando's personality where when he doesn't develop or doesn't deliver, he's self-deprecating, beats himself up to try to, get himself in the right mindset? I'm not sure. I don't want to overplay that. I don't want to underplay it either, but I'm more intent in figuring out. I think Lando said he had no idea, how he produced the result he did. The car was great. He wasn't. And, just a lot of self-deprecation, but it's kind of his vibe,
Yeah. I mean, he's said that before.
He has.
Interviews that, one of his weaknesses is, confidence.
Yeah.
Or, and it was a very flawed weekend.
Yeah,
he was in the best car. He didn't get the best result, and I disagree that he earned all that place back. If he'd earned all that place back, he actually would have been ahead of George at the end of the race.
True. Good point. Yep.
So
Good
I mean,
point.
he had to fight through Ferraris, which he shouldn't have been having to fight through.
Yeah. True.
And he would have had more car to fight George with. So I think he did lose a position for that mistake. That was a flaw. His qualifying position was a flaw. Some of his racecraft was actually flawed, I would say, on this weekend. I don't know what it was. He has a tendency to not really take a big dive, but sometimes he can be a bit messy.
Yeah, he's a bit peak and valley, isn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, not extremes,
No.
but when you're dealing with this kind of competition, a little dive in that can mean third or fourth place rather than second or first.
Yeah.
So, whatever it was, he needs to get his head around it and figure it out. Being self-deprecating is great and all, but I personally wouldn't be doing it.
No.
It's great to get everyone's sympathy by doing that, but I think I can't imagine Oscar saying something like that.
No, it's not.
Even after a bad weekend.
Yeah.
So he needs to, grow up a little bit still.
If that's a sort of internal inventory methodology for him, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but if that's kind of, his way of taking inventory, knowing that he dropped the ball on it and just being bluntly candid and hard on himself as a motivator or a coping skill, I don't know what that is. I can be self-deprecating for sure, but it's but for him, I think there's a bigger discussion around it than what his mental state going in or out of a race is. I feel like for him and this car, Oscar said it too. It's a very fast car, but it can occasionally bite you. And I think if that's happened to Oscar, it's happened to Lando too. Lando has made no bones about that the car is on a knife edge. And it looked like the two of them this weekend, Oscar just had a lot more confidence in the car.
Yeah.
And the drivability of that car and what he was doing with it than Lando did. So I think there's a bigger conversation about getting Lando comfortable and confident in that car. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but the mentality you have to be a champion to win races.
Yeah, you got to brush that off.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to, whether you're being real or not real, you have to not let those thoughts get into your head, because that's when it can spiral.
Yeah.
So Lando needs to literally get over it.
Yeah, it's one thing about being your own worst enemy or your own worst harsh critic, and that's fine. But if this, I mean, you got to change the mindset. I agree with you. Yep. Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli a P11, George Russell in P2. I'm not trying to sound like a fanboy for George here, folks, but I've defended him fiercely for the past several years, accusing Mercedes of being slow to move him into Valtteri's seat. And then when they did move him into the seat, they spent all their time loving the alien, who is Lewis, and very little public love for George. Did you get the David Bowie reference there?
Yeah,
okay,
that's a good song.
Yeah. Okay, maybe he's a prickly character. I don't know. I don't know why Mercedes can't show him a little love. I have no idea. But he's delivering, Paul. This year he is delivering when many aren't. And he did it again on Sunday. He ran with Oscar for most of the day. Benefited from the safety car, but they fit a set of softs on. He said that was, an audacious move, but he managed to protect those tires to have enough to fight off the challenge from Lando late in the race.
Yeah.
And also managed to drive a car who was having some serious electronic, a full-blown come apart, right? I mean, it was like Whopper from War Games there. I mean, it was, I don't know what was going on. There was no DRS, or when a DRS kicked in when he tried to push his push to talk button, and I mean the whole thing was just
someone must have spilled a Diet Coke on the steering wheel or something.
I know.
Yeah.
Then he lost all his telemetry. I mean, and if that wasn't bad enough, he had issues with the brake-by-wire system, right? So I don't know how you drive around it, but he did, and he finished in P2. I just thought it was a Herculean effort on George's part that not a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, obviously that car was dying on him.
Yeah,
literally, inside out. I mean, I was fully expecting it just to pull over and just completely be stopped.
Me too.
But somehow he got it through it made its way through there, and he dealt with all the issues that were coming around. Whether it's his dash not working, things are inconsistent with the brakes. That was a crazy situation to be in and be able to hold that position. I thought he was dead in the water. So he did a massively impressive job, both getting to where he was before the car started having trouble was great, and he has been great so far this year in that car. But surviving that was a nearly miraculous, I would say.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think had that race been a couple laps longer, he'd have parked it up somewhere.
Oh, it would have. It was, there was something seriously going badly on that car.
Yeah, especially brake by wire. That gets a little touchy at 200
a
miles an hour.
A little bit. Yeah. And everything, and I've talked about that, the brake system, it's so much programming goes into how the brakes work going into the corners that if that system starts going to drift, the brake bias and the pressure and everything is changing to the negative, I'm sure. But he held on. So
I gotta think, really, Paul, if your brake-by-wire system is like losing its mind, all of a sudden you gotta instantly start feeling for break points and what you've got to do to overcome, whether it's a long, if it's not braking or the bias is off and it's front.
Yeah.
Imagine what's going through your head every single corner.
Right.
When you hit the brake pedal, you don't know if the bias now chucked it in the back or,
Correct. Yeah. I mean, the brake by wire can change the pressure from each corner of the car.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of effort put into getting that right, which allows the car to help it turn and be stable.
Yeah.
Then if that's just jumping around, you turn into a corner, who knows, as you say, could be like someone pulling up the handbrake on you as a lark, every time.
Yeah.
So,
crazy. Yeah, it is crazy. Teammate Kimi Antonelli had a little bit of a tougher day, but was running in the top 10 for much of the race, battling some big names in F1 up there, and doing just a yeoman's job of it. Just such an impressive young man. He got caught out by the safety car. Then the team brought him again for a third stop during the safety car, but fitted used softs. And I think they'd maybe do a little better if they'd put on a set of mediums or hards. I think even Toto.
If they had them.
Yeah, I think
definitely not hards.
Yeah, I think Toto said maybe they'd have been better off putting hards on, but the medium, you're right, Paul, was the tire. My point is they may have been a little better off trying to consolidate that track position that they had,
right,
to stay in the points. That's hindsight, right? And hindsight's 2020. Still, I think Kimi had some of the best passing on the day, and perhaps to that point, Toto said he pushed a little too hard early on his tires, then lost a few spots, and then had to try to regain those. So he was pushing kind of hard trying to regain that. That's just a learning moment in my mind that he'll learn from in tire management. But I just thought, while the result wasn't points, but I still think he had a great race.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what you don't know if you've never been to that situation before.
Yeah.
There is a steep learning curve. I thought he drove great, and I think his composure in traffic and passing people and being patient and learning, okay, maybe I don't dive bomb into one, maybe I fake it and then make sure I set up for passing down that next straight, and which worked great for him.
Yeah. Well, he passed Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, neither of which make it easy to do anything with regards to passing them.
No, they know how to drive defensive. We know that, and I thought he drove a great race, and it's a shame the strategy didn't work out. It's strange that he didn't get any points, quite honestly, because he was in the thick of it for most of the time. But certainly not a negative race for him, I don't think, even though the result didn't come out as well.
Yeah. For Ferrari, Charles Leclerc in P4, Lewis Hamilton in P5. Ferrari started both cars on medium, not a split strategy, and perhaps they were a little slow off the line, given that they were on mediums, but everyone around them were on softs or even used softs, as Scrub said. But they weren't completely outclassed, and Charles stayed amongst the sharp end of the grid in the early stages. They ran longer than those around them, and Charles took the lead briefly before boxing. They both stopped again during the safety car, and this is where Lewis started finding some serious pace as he jumped back up the field during that pit stop cycle, and Charles was holding on to P3 despite both being on hard compounds, which the other teams really struggle with. And I found that interesting that the Ferraris seemed to make that hard work for him. I don't know.
I don't think it was really working for him.
You don't?
I don't.
You just think they were driving their butts off?
Yeah, I think they were driving their butts off. I think the tire was bad. I don't think it was good for anybody. But you don't know that really till you get into it. But they made the best of the situation. But I definitely don't think they had some miraculous handling car on the hards at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think the medium was the tire for sure.
For sure. And the soft seemed decent too for longevity-wise for a soft.
Yeah,
but the hard just didn't have anything.
No, I think most people that tried, and certainly we'll get to Max in a minute, but that that put paid to his race. They both had some fun duels bringing home P4 and P5. Charles said that he said there's no regrets from the race. He was happy with the race, but they do need to find more pace. But I do get the impression from his comments that he was happier with the floor upgrades this week. And I felt like from his comments that he was sort of implying he could push the car harder and had the confidence to do so. So that's a positive step in development for them.
He bungled that pass on Norris pretty good.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He really outbraked himself, but he was feisty. He was, I think he was there or thereabouts. I said I think the tire choices kind of threw them back there, but I think they really made the best of that. Obviously, still finishing in the top 6.
Yeah. I mean, not perfect, but it wasn't a disaster either. I think Lewis, on Saturday, not feeling great. Charles had the measure of him all season so far. I think, Lewis is saying he's just not doing good enough. He's just not, and he was apologizing to him. He did come out of the race, though, and he said that he felt like he may have figured something out about the car this weekend and how it likes to be driven. So let's hope that manifests next week in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're talking about Red Bull. Yuki Tsunoda P9, Max Verstappen P6. Tough weekend for Red Bulls, and dare I say, uncharacteristic weekend with the slow stops due to the go light and the gantry not working. That is very un-Red Bull-like. But that honestly, as bad as that was, Paul, I kind of feel like that was maybe the least of their issues. Max struggled all weekend to get the drivability the way he wanted it. And when they fitted the hard compound on his first stop, I mean, he just lost positions hand over fist, was mired in the midfield. So they boxed him early, and that dropped him to the back. To his credit, on fresher mediums, he did climb his way back up to P6, thanks in part to boxing just before the safety car and then gaining track positions in the leader's box. So that worked out. Up to P6, not a happy bunny is Max, not happy with the car and its performance at all. But, there again, what a difference a weekend can make, right, from Japan.
Right.
Just doing a great job and finishing P6 here, just out of sheer dragging that car by the scruff of the neck up to P6.
Yeah, they're definitely in trouble. It's a difficult car, and we know he can get the best out of whatever he's given. Yeah, but that's the best it can give him right now. Yeah. So we'll see how desperate they get to putting resources towards this car. Obviously, next year is important, but it doesn't look great for the Red Bull team, and obviously they're still changing personnel behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, and the other thing, that kind of adds to my notion that if this is where Red Bull's kind of going to be, and Ferrari's kind of where they're going to be, and Mercedes, then it even adds more reality to my comment that I think Zach's going to have a Nico versus Lewis 2016. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I said it. If the chasm between McLaren and the rest gets bigger and bigger and bigger, those problems come up sooner and sooner and sooner.
So when Lando's biggest rival is his teammate, like Lewis and Nico Rosberg. Let's see. Yuki had a better day, I would say. He had some clashes with Carlos twice, not getting a penalty for that, which was a bit lucky. And he made the most of really his strategy, going 28 laps on the softs to the end to score points, which was, in fairness to Yuki, that's what his target in the race lead up. When they talked to him, what do you think you can do from back where he qualified? And he said, look, I'm targeting points, and that's where he ended up. I would think, in fairness to Yuki, I thought he had a better weekend. I mean, it wasn't great. He wasn't on the podium and didn't win. I don't know that I was expecting that given where he qualified. But to get up there in P9, not a mile off of Max. And if best Max can do is P6, then I would say P9 is a pretty good result.
I would say it was. Yeah. I mean, obviously the best teammate performance so far this year, if nearing the end of last year with Sergio. Yeah. So I think he did. He was definitely feisty. He was definitely ready to mix it up. He doesn't, I think he was playing with fire a little bit there, as close as he was running with some of those cars.
Yeah.
It was unusual that, the issue with Carlos was, the back end track, swung out on him. He lost traction, and that's where the contact came from, not from a bungled move. Maybe that's the difference. But then when we saw the penalty to Lawson later on, you're like, yeah, why? There was contact. It was avoidable if you'd done something different. So it was weird that he didn't get anything for that.
I kind of felt like it was too. I was a little surprised, if I'm honest, given the other penalties.
Giving the other penalties. I could say don't give him a penalty.
Yeah.
I would be happy with that. But don't give the other people the penalties for what I would deem as lesser issues. Overall, pretty good. I think, Red Bull should be happy.
Yeah.
That he's close to Max, and that's his job.
That's
right?
his job, yeah, exactly. So kudos to Yuki for that. I think he had a good weekend, all things given. I would imagine the team would be taking a long look at their lighting gantry system, of course, but Horner said that they really struggled with braking issues and imbalance issues all weekend long and could not get on top of it. And the comments about, I've been reading a lot of comments about how incredibly narrow the operating window of performance this car has. And I'm taking a guess here, Paul, but if it's that narrow of a ultimate performance window for that car, and it's difficult for even Max to get in that window and stay there, it would suggest to me that some weekends are going to be like Japan and others are going to be like Bahrain. It could be very track specific.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them usually a couple of times a year. They get to a place where they can't perform.
Yeah.
Probably going to be more often than not this year, it seems.
Yeah.
As said, unless they could pull their resources and put some resources to fixing that problem instead of the obvious thing that we know they're doing, which is got Newey behind the scenes working on next year's car.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Alpine, Pierre Gasly, P7, Jack Dewan, P14. Pierre had a terrific qualifying and then converted that into an equally terrific race. I just think he did a fabulous job. He started on soft, switched to mediums, then hards, and held off some very strong competition and brought it home in P7, just losing that last spot to Max at the last lap. But he was doing a fantastic job, was Pierre, and I just think he was on it. The car was competitive, more competitive at this track. Who knows if that's track specific or if that's developments that Aliox and the team brought. I don't know. But the reality of it is, I think Pierre just absolutely outdid himself this weekend. A great run.
Yeah, it's good for the team to be able to give him a car, but we know Gasly, when he gets a car, he does phenomenal things with it. He really does. I mean, it's a shame that team does ebb and flow as it does, but it's great that this early on in the season the car's performing. We saw it come on late last year.
Yeah,
performing this early, it's going to bode well for their championship aspirations. They don't necessarily need a one-off, race in the rain to score all their points this year. But hopefully they can be more consistent, and Gasly's definitely up for that job.
Yeah, definitely. And it gets them off the goose egg in points, right? So going to get the points issue behind them. They got some very nice points this weekend, and a great run by Pierre. As I seem to be one of the few people out here defending Jack, I think he had a very good weekend, and he gained a lot by staying out during the safety car, but worn tires towards the end meant he lost a few places and was out of the points, and that's as much strategy issue as his driving issue.
Yeah.
I think he did very well this weekend. He was running up into the top 10 with Pierre for a good chunk of that race. And to be honest with you, I think it's about time the world should stop constantly having those Pinto discussions, because I think Jack is delivering. He had a couple of bobbles, so did Hadjar, so is other rookies, but I think Jack looked great this weekend. And, he was just on some older tires, and the teams at Box had fresher tires, and he started to drop a little bit backwards, but I think he did it good.
No, he did a great job, actually. It is a lot of pressure right now for him.
Yeah.
I think that shook off a little of that pressure. when you perform like that, the result is what the result is because of the tire strategy. I think they should have come in and put new tires on and given them a chance to fight. If this is Suzuka, that'd be different.
Yeah.
Where passing is difficult. Here, 3 DRS zones.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of passing out there, which was great, but it also means that it's really tough to hold people off if you got bad rubber on there.
Yeah.
So and he held up for quite a while actually. But once the one car got by, he was out to lunch, and it was like being drafting on a Daytona, right?
Yeah.
It just once you got out of line, everyone just came on through, and that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
So I know he was disappointed with the result, but he shouldn't be disappointed with how he drove and did the weekend.
Yeah, I think, and maybe you could argue, oh, well, he didn't manage his hard tires the best. But Kimi didn't either. Toto said as much. He said Kimi cooked his tires in the first stint because he was trying to get places back, and he's a rookie. So give a guy a break, man. I think he had a good weekend.
Yep.
I'll tell you who had a good weekend, Paul.
Yeah?
I don't mind mentioning it. It's Haas, F1. Esteban Ocon in P8. Ali Behrman in P10. This weekend looked like it was heading for a Chernobyl-style disaster for this team, with Ali qualifying last, Esteban putting his car in the wall. But what a redemption drive for both of these drivers. Both had a good start. The team nailed the strategy perfectly, I think. And I'm sure a little luck as Ali stopped for softs under the safety car.
Yeah.
But he held on to 10th, having started 20th. It was a terrific drive from a rookie from the very far back at the moldy end of the grid to come all the way back up into P10. I just think he did a fabulous job, Paul.
Yeah, no, he did. He did. He's still a little raw there. You see, sometimes in traffic he can make mistakes or look a little bit like he's not completely in control of the car. But that's what you're going to get with a rookie. And,
yeah, he's got some sharp corners you probably could sand off a little.
Yes, but he's got pace for sure.
Yeah.
And so those things can be fixed.
Yeah.
With experience, time, a little bit of work in between the races. How old is Behrman? Is he 18 or 19? He's young. He looks older than he is, I think.
He looks 15, doesn't he?
Yeah, but so I think he's doing a great job, and there's a lot of potential there. He's already showed that, when he did the debut for Ferrari, and
yeah.
So it's there, being consistently there is where the experience comes from, and he did put it on a terrific drive. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you how old he is.
Okay.
You really want to know?
I do.
Okay. He's 19.
I really want to know. Okay, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. What was I doing at 19?
I wasn't doing that. I can tell you that.
No, I wasn't doing that.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if he's 19, 20. I couldn't remember. Yeah, 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, great weekend. Esteban also stopped early. Because he stopped a little early. He had those softs on, Paul. Started and stopped a little early. Put him a little out of cycle with everyone around him. It worked a treat for him, though.
Yeah, the undercut.
As the undercut.
Great.
For several positions, and then stayed out during the safety car and harvested positions as everybody in front of him boxed for that to secure P8. Equally terrific drive, perfect execution. The team nailed the strategy. Good for them, and he executed. This was, I don't want to overstate it, but I think this was a key for several teams, knowing that the medium was the right tire and when to stop for it, and possibly also how to get the undercut in the process of stopping for it. And I think Haas nailed that. And Esteban executed it perfectly. So not only do you have the benefits of coming off that soft, getting on the preferred tire, the medium, your in and out laps have to be great. And when you box, to take advantage of the undercut based on the traffic behind you and the gaps in between them. I mean, that's a strategic nightmare, right?
Yeah. Not run out of tire.
Yeah.
Just put yourself in a compromising position at the end. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very tough. Yep. So kudos to the entire team. Great strategy calls. Both drivers executed well. Very happy for Haas.
All done very well.
Yeah. Both cars in the points. I'm excited for Komatsu and team. the men and women of that team have been working their backside off for years.
Yeah, he's a calm guy.
He is a calm guy.
I like him.
I do too. I like him a lot. And we don't get all the fun Drive Survive F-bombs that Gunther does, but I don't think Io really cares. He's not in it for that.
Please.
Williams, not a great weekend and probably not as good as it should have been or could have been.
Right.
Alex Albon in P12, Carlos Sainz at DNF. A bit of a missed opportunity here for Alex. He got body checked by the qualifying lap cancellation of Nico's, right? And that was so much later. Whereas had they called that the over the white line or whatever at the moment, it would have allowed Alex to participate in the next session.
Right.
And he didn't get to do that. And that car could have qualified higher. So as it was, he started in the back, and that was very, difficult. But he just outside the points. Perhaps I think maybe he felt the stack pit stop lost them a couple places. Struggling on the hards cost him points, and he was out of it. I feel like Alex and I feel like JV even pretty much felt that a combination of elements contributed to the fact that Alex should have been in the points, should have had some points.
Yeah, I mean the car was actually good.
Mm-hmm.
It was very good, and definitely Williams are definitely right in the forefront and in the mid-pack teams.
Yeah.
And to come out of this race without any points is a big disappointment to him.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Carlos was in 6th place running, and Albon was 8th at some point, and then it just all went horribly wrong for him with the contacts, etc. So I would be upset if I was them, but the good thing they can bring with it is that car's good.
Yeah.
And it seems to have been good everywhere so far.
Yeah,
so
good point.
They'll have their day.
Yeah, good point. And I really thought this was going to be Carlos's race, but man, he had a ticket for the bumper car ride. Or as you call him, Paul, Dodgems, isn't that what you call him? And
Dodgem cars.
Yeah, and he certainly used his ticket. And he started dropping backwards, and I think a little frustration. He was really trying, because I think Carlos felt, I'm running up in 6th. The car's there. This is going to be a good result for us. And then when he started,
I can see Lewis right there, the guy that stole my ride.
Yeah, he's right up there, and he was holding Lewis behind him. And I just, when he started dropping backwards out of the top 10 or, early on, he got that 10-second penalty for running Kimi wide off track. Then he had a full-on bump session with Yuki twice, and that put a gaping hole in the side pod, ended his race. I think the lesson here, as Carlos knows all too well, having been at Ferrari, is not to mess around with all the hoi polloi at the back of the grid.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem.
I mean, I know. I was thinking about that whole Sainz, Kimi Antonelli thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's too many penalties, man.
They were penalty happy.
I get he messed his corner up, but Jesus, it's racing. That's what racing is.
Yeah.
You're not. I don't know. You're pushing hard. It's not going to always come out good in the corner. As long as you're not dive bombing someone and just harpooning them in the side, you got to let them race a little bit.
Yeah.
But the penalties is starting to come on again, and I don't like it.
Yeah, they are. I agree with you. A little bit of micromanaging there. Let's see. Aston Martin, Lance Stroll P17, Fernando Alonso P15. The team split strategies with Lance on softs, Fernando on mediums, and it was just really ultimately the overall lack of pace that really seems to have been basically kidnapped and held for ransom at this point. I mean, Alonso's got no points in the season, Paul. And that's a bit disheartening. Stroll had a clash with Lawson, so that wasn't great for Lance. I'm starting to wonder if the team hasn't turned its fiery Eye of Sauron onto the 2026 season at this point, because it just, I don't know where the pace is. I don't know what's going on. Japan was the first race Fernando's finished this season. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mentioned Newey being at Red Bull now. He's obviously here.
Yeah, he's there.
So, and working in the background.
On 2026.
Yes, on 2026.
Yeah.
So let me turn that comment around, throw it back out now, where when does Aston Martin say, this is a little embarrassing, we need a little help here? Yeah. See, have a look at these drawings I bring to you, and see what you think. Is that
that
right?
Same thing. Lawrence walks down with a couple files and says, "Because Mr. Newey, I know you're busy on the 2026 car, but could you over maybe lunch just have a quick look at this and maybe give us an opinion? No, get out. I'm busy.
Get out. Yeah, I don't know. It's not good.
No, it's not good.
And the car just doesn't matter what.
It's not good enough.
Doesn't matter what strategy you run right now for that car. I'm afraid they need to find something in the car, not in strategy calls or drivers.
Yeah, I agree. Got to find some pace. Speaking of finding pace, Kick Sauber, Gabriel Bortoletto, P18, Hulkenberg had a DSQ after the race. Sauber also split the strategy with Nico on softs, Gabriel on mediums, but like Aston, it just didn't make any difference due to lack of pace. Gabriel said that any time he got close to any car in front of him, he just lost all his grip. So he had a lot of aero wash that they were struggling with. I don't know if they were running those cars in quite a bit different setup, because ultimately if he was losing the whole front end of that car and grip when he got behind a car, I don't know if they were super low. One would suggest that maybe they were, because then Nico got a disqualification for a skid block legality plank issue. And he was too low. So I guess they figured, Sauber figures, well, if Ferrari can get penalized and DSQ'd, we can too, and they did.
Yeah, all buddies. We'll have a beer over it later on. Yeah, I don't know. I would say that it's probably that they have to have this ultimate setup to get any pace out of the car at all, and anything that affects it is just going to send it way out the window.
Yeah.
It's obviously not a great car still, but it was better. It showed better. This is the worst race of the year for this car. Hopefully it can turn it around a little bit, but I think it's always going to be a struggle for them having pace, and that was definitely unfortunate. But I didn't get my alert that Hulkenberg got disqualified. I mean, that was big news.
Yeah,
but it didn't seem like anyone really cared.
They didn't think you would care, apparently. So. Was the RB team listening to the Enigma album and the Return to Innocence song, or what was going on there? Isaac's F1 season may have come back to reality, as he was treated to a lot of heartburn this weekend and no bromides. P13 for Isaac, P16 for Liam. He lost spots. Isaac lost spots at the start, box just before the safety car. Unfortunately, got caught out by that. Lost ground to fresher shod cars behind him. So, is this a one-off for the Phenom, or is this more realistic of what Isaac and RB can do on balance? I hope it's not that, because I think he's been doing a fantastic job this season. And I hope this is a one-off, but I was a little surprised to see the total lack of pace that he had.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's a one-off, but I certainly think
track
the car
specific.
is. Yeah, I think the car's better than it shows there.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say the season is on the downslide. I think track specific. I would say that's probably fair.
Yeah.
I think they'll be stronger elsewhere.
Yep. For Liam, tough race. Got a penalty for hitting Stroll, then another one for hitting Nico.
He's hitting everybody.
He's kind of like red mist time, right? I don't know if he was angry so much. I just think he's trying so hard to make something happen in that car that he's overdoing it a little bit and over the limit.
And that happens.
Right?
Like, gripping the steering wheel that a little bit tight, just trying to, you don't want to be. Obviously a lot's happened to him this year already.
It has,
and now he's being compared to Hadjar instead of Verstappen. He's still not beating him.
Yeah,
that's tough.
I don't blame Liam. He's trying to salvage an F1 career here.
Yeah.
And everybody's all enthralled and talking about the amazing Isaac Hadjar, for good reason. And so Liam's saying, "Oh my gosh, I got to get on top of this. I got to start beating this guy."
Yep.
I know I'm better than this, and he's trying to make something happen. It just isn't happening. So anyway, but Paul,
even more difficult because of what everyone was thinking about him.
Yes.
6 months ago.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Including us, right? It's like Lawson. Why not?
Why not?
Because he did. He showed up for Formula One, and he did a great job.
He did.
In a short span of time.
But I'm kind of thinking, Paul, and this is where the team needs to kind of sit down and work with him pretty hard on getting some of this ironed out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see what they want to do, or
are they just so enamored with Isaac that it's like, All right.
I mean, I don't know. I think they obviously got rid of him out of the daddy team pretty quick.
Yeah.
I could see them, if it doesn't keep going well, I could see them doing it again for him.
Yeah.
You know,
kind of like a Nick DeVries move.
Yeah, I could see it happening if it doesn't turn around.
Yeah.
I think he's capable of turning around, but the things he's been up against right now is probably mentally disturbing and destroying. Can he turn that around? I'm talking about his natural talent is there, but whether his mental strength and his somehow can turn it around. I don't know. I don't know the guy. You know.
Although he could end up getting a phone call from Helmet. You know.
Yeah.
That's always
Goodbye,
possible.
Good luck and good riddance.
So there you go. I don't know.
We'll see.
Hang in there, Lamb. Give it hell.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's what we think about the teams. Let us know what you think about the teams. It's our thoughts. We always hand out awards for Race Review Podcast, so let's do the first one. You know, it's kind of fun. It's Move of the Race, of course. And, you know, why not? I think there were several moves of the race, if I'm honest, and I liked most of them. So, Paul, let's start with yours, because yours is the most important. What was your move of the race?
I'm going to call it moves of the race, and I'm going to give it to Antonelli. I know he resulted in, but I thought some of those moves for a guy of his age in the position he's in, pretty good. Composure was good.
Yeah.
His thought process was good. There were a lot of great moves on the outside of, left side through the S's. There was some great stuff going on out there for sure. But I and maybe it's whatever we saw on the TV is, being our judge. But we saw plenty of moves that Kimi did that I was pretty impressed with, for his young age and experience.
Yeah, I had Kimi on Max because that had to hurt Max. Max had to be a little upset. But I agree with you. I think Kimi had great moves all race long. I just think he did a fabulous job. That leaves us with the next award, which is Donkey of the Race.
We'll do it live.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
There you go, Paul. Who was your Donkey of the Race?
Oh, Matt, I was going between the Red Bull light system, and they lost out to Lando. Lando is getting my Donkey of the, because so many connotations happened this weekend.
Yeah, they did.
With allowing Piastri to get away from him a little bit, close up on the championship, just really a messy weekend all the way in pace and some of the things he did on track.
Especially when you can consider that Max is always kind of the guy to beat, and he's back in P6. Yeah. So now would certainly have been the time to capitalize on that. Nope. Yeah. Oscar nipped in there.
I'm certainly not saying Lando can't bring it back, but he needs to nip that thought process and not have those messy weekends too often.
I think he will next weekend. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Top tip there.
Out. Okay.
So mine was DRS and all the track electronics, the timing scoring boards and everything got messed up. And then George and all his, his telemetry.
I honestly, I think that was literally just George's car doing that.
I think it was.
So I don't think it was the track or the timing system, because George's car, the transponder went out first, then all the other stuff started going bad, I think they just kind of took that scoreboard off because he was throwing the whole thing off. So I think it was really a Mercedes issue rather than a track issue.
I think it was. It was throwing everything off. The DRS. Yeah. Then they were even telling Lando, we can't use DRS unless we know we're over the
because
thing.
His DRS couldn't detect whether because basically Russell was running out there not sending signals.
Right. So I think Mercedes, get yourself sorted,
Yeah.
Get some PVC jacketed cabling with some heat shrink around those connections. I don't know what's going on, man.
Yeah, that steering wheel's not a cup holder. Get that stuff out of here.
Yeah. I was waiting for it to do an Alonso where the whole wheel comes off and he has to put it back on and reset. But crazy. Anyway, that was nuts. All right, final award is Drive of the Race.
You like my bass? You like it? It's an Lewis.
Yes. Drive of the Race, Paul.
I'm giving it to George. I thought he did a great job. He's been doing a great job.
Yeah.
And getting that car to the finish, dealing with a lot of things going wrong internally in the car. and holding off Lando was mightily impressive.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to George too. I wrote I could pick George, Ali, or Oscar. I think all three of them had a fantastic race. I'm going to go with George because he had a hell of a lot of adversity going on there.
Yeah,
you know,
sure did.
And it couldn't have been easy driving around for him, and he handled it like a pro. So I'm going to give it to George too. It was a great result. Yep. All right. Well, that does it for this podcast. Let us know who, and by the way, man, Lewis Hamilton, driver of the race vote. What is that?
I don't know.
I mean, I like Lewis as much as the next guy, but really?
Was Florida voting?
Yeah. I don't understand. I mean, Lewis over Oscar? Really? Oscar had a brilliant weekend over George? Yeah, I don't get it. Anyway. That's just my 2 cents. Let us know what you think about this race and if we got it right or wrong and what you thought about the team's drivers or awards. And you can do that by going to theparkferme.com. And you can, if you like this podcast, leave us a good rating at your favorite podcast player. Share the podcast on all of the socials. If you watch this podcast, do the right thing. Hit subscribe for crying out loud and the like button and the bell icon and, help us out. Spread the word, man.
Indeed.
That would be most appreciated. A huge, huge thing. Oh, by the way, on our website, you can even buy Park for May gear because I have I updated all the T-shirts and everything, mugs and everything with our new logo. So that's all out there. So you can get that new merch. And
awesome.
We could not do this podcast if it were not for our Patreon supporters. So thank you so much to all of our Patreon supporters for all of your support and patronage. It's greatly appreciated. Paul, we're coming back. You and I.
Back. Yes.
We are back to Saudi Arabia. Jeddah, baby.
Woo! Jeddah.
Fast street circuit. You got any predictions for us?
Nope.
Hey, I was excited. I jumped from almost dead last in our fantasy group back up. I jumped 14
I didn't
places.
even check. Where did I
You're still leading, Grace and I. You're
okay.
yeah,
well,
you're still up there. Yeah, I know. You're still up there. I think was it Eduardo Martinez jumped 19 places or something. Great job. It was awesome.
Definitely my predictions did not work out.
Yeah, mine, I had Oscar for the win, Lando second, George Russell
good
third.
For you. Oh, wow, you were close.
Oh, it
okay.
was
I
close.
had none of those right.
Yeah, I had him so close. But anyway. All right. Well, we'll come back next week. We'll do it all over again. We'll talk about the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. Until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camera, saying so long.
That's it, man. It's game over, man. It's game over.
We